Well, the Quran says you can marry people of the book, which is a reference to biblical religions, because the Quran is different from Christianity in this sense, in that, you know, Islam was born at a time when Christianity was already a world-dominant civilization, and very early in Christianity, one of the reasons Christianity got into conflict with Roman civilization, and the Romans didn't care that there was a lot of religions. They had Egyptian religions, all these religions. What was getting them in conflict with the Roman civilization was that Christianity early on said, we have the truth. This is all pagan, idol worship stuff. You're going to go to hell. We're trying to save you from that, right? And that's the Christian position, or at least traditional Christian position, that we have Christ is the way to the truth, and all these other things are illusions, right? Islam didn't have that position. Islam was born in a world where there was already a dominant world religion, Christianity. Judaism existed in Arabia at the time. And so Islam was born as a very small group facing this very large civilization. It did not take the position that Christianity was invalid or invalid. It wasn't practical, and it wasn't also just the theology of religion. So Islam recognizes that Judaism and Christianity are valid revealed religions. Islam believes it is a restoration of the original teachings of like Abraham and Moses, right? And so it's just like Judaism and Christianity sort of went off the path where Moses taught. We're going to bring it back. That's the idea. But it recognizes those two religions as coming from a divine origin. And so as a result, it has an inherently ecumenical nature to it, because the religions have validity before God. So because of that, you know, Muslims can marry, or at least Muslim men can marry Jewish and Christian women. At the time, other religions weren't prevalent in Arabia, so the Quran recognizes that there are other religions. He doesn't talk about them too much. And over time, Muslims, as they started conquering much of the world, they got to India, and there was Buddhism and Hinduism, stuff that Muhammad had no interaction with in his lifetime. They started extending this people of the book status to other religions that they encountered, because all they knew about was Jews and Christians. Then suddenly they met Buddhists. Like, oh, okay, well, you know, Buddha might have been a prophet. Okay, you're Buddha too. But on a practical level, it is still, amongst Muslims, you know, people of the book generally refers to Jews and Christians, who are considered our sister religions.
I have a final question. Yes. I'm wondering, have there been any Muslim characters on any other shows that weren't terrorists that you thought were good characters?
No.
I mean, I can't think of any. No?
There's no.
What about television? I mean, what about film? That comes to mind, I think.
I'm trying to think. I couldn't tell you one. I mean, unless we're talking about the 1930s Sinbad the Sailor, right? I mean, yeah, I couldn't tell you one. I couldn't. I'm talking Arabian Nights, Alibaba, Aladdin. That's it, right? I mean, I couldn't name a single positive Muslim character in movies ever.
But so I don't understand, now that you're part of Hollywood, why can't you say to some of your writer friends or producer friends, okay, make a nurse or make a doctor who's a Muslim?
Well, as I rise in power, I do that on my own shows. I can only influence the shows that I'm involved in, right?
You don't, like, it's not like a network of people you can, like, chat them up?
No, just one guy. I mean,
no, but I mean, like, other people who aren't...
People, I mean, why should I expect anyone else to have my interest, right? I mean, you know, I talk to people, but they want to run their TV show. They don't have any, you know, they want to create ER. They don't have any particular interest to make ER, but with a Muslim guy, right? I mean, so if that's not their thing, you know, actually, funny story from ER, to give you an example of how prejudices work, people aren't even aware of their prejudices. When I first came to town 5 years ago, I went for a meeting at ER, and very nice meeting. I was up for a job on ER. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, I could get a job on ER. And the meeting was going great until the last moment, and I screwed this up. I should get my mouth shut. The last moment, I asked them a question. They're like, so you have any questions for us? I said, well, I have one question for you. How come there are no Indian characters on ER? Because most of us know Indian doctors. I mean, especially if it's set in Chicago with a large Indian and Pakistani community, there's no Indian characters. And suddenly I saw all the body language change to this. So all the walls went up. I lost the job in that one moment, because then they're like, do you know any Indian actors? I actually know quite a few. And there was responses, you know, there's no Indian actors. There's no Indian actors that they wanted. They just didn't want to have, they saw no need for it. They didn't know any Indians. I guess they ignored the Indians they knew in their hospital they went to, it wasn't until, I forget the actress's name, but the woman from Bend It Like Beckham, until Bend It Like Beckham became a huge worldwide success, then they said, okay, she's acceptable to be an ER. See, it was the snobbery of Hollywood, right? There was no Indian actor that was at their level of acceptability. It didn't reflect the physical reality of the world they were portraying, but it was, well, we're the top show on television. You know, we don't need to create a character, even though any Chicago hospital has like 30% Indian population. I mean, I mean, that's just reality. So that's a subtle bigotry, and that's, again, I don't blame human beings. Whoever's in power just looks out for themselves. That's just human nature, and I'm not delusional enough to think that 40 years from now, I'm sort of like the next Rupert Murdoch, you better believe the kinds of stories I'm going to be doing are going to affect my worldview. That's what's going to happen. And if you don't like my worldview, go and, you know, become the next Rupert Murdoch and compete with me. You know, I mean, that was, my whole thing is, that was my philosophy. All the Muslims like complaining, oh, look at how we're being portrayed in the media. I said, yeah, okay, how many Muslims are running studios? Name one. How many Muslims are running newspapers? Name one. They couldn't. I was like, okay, so why would you expect somebody to share your worldview? You have to, if you want your worldview shown in the media, you have to participate. Are we holding up the next slide? Maybe.
Is that like is that really like a good stance to take on that though?
Tell me, what's your view?
No, I don't know. Like,
what's your critique?
Are there, I don't know, are there problems for like Muslims trying to get up into? I mean, like, it sounds like you've had issues.
Of course I have issues, but you know, I'm very much of a believer in Malcolm X's ideology. Not the Nation of Islam sort of racial ideology, but his very simple view, which is, and he said this to the African American community, and I apply this to the entire Muslim community. Don't sit around waiting for the white man to open doors for you. He's not going to do it, and if he does, it'll be on his terms, right? You create your own reality. And so if I complain to Muslims complaining about their lack of empowerment, of course there'll be obstacles. No community that's in power wants to see some other community start filtering in. That's human nature. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just humanity. So my view is just suck it up and deal with it, because I'm doing it. And you know, there's some, that was my view on this. When people criticized this, I said, okay, look, what TV show do you have to offer me? Here I did some good stuff on Islam. If I had not been on, the show would have still been on there, and it would have been horrific, right? And you saw the difference between the pilot and what was shown here. There's, in my opinion, a quantum leap in the way it was presented and how Islam was portrayed. Because, you know, I'm within the community. It's not an outsider trying to write about it, right? I mean, imagine doing a show, imagine doing, you know, Queer as Folk without a single gay writer on the show, or in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you're going to have an outside perspective. And yet they were happy to create the show. They didn't know a Muslim writer existed. The show was created, and the presumption would be that it would all be non-Muslim writers because there were no Muslim writers. When they met me, they read one of my scripts, they met me, they were stunned to discover that I was a Muslim writer. And they were stunned to discover I was actually good, right? So that's a standard I hold to. You can't, you know, I'm going to say something that's going to be very controversial, and some of you are not going to like it, but I'm just sharing my viewpoint, and we can discuss it. I dislike and oppose in Hollywood the system that they've created for the diversity system. I'm a minority, and I've been screwed in the system. But I'll tell you why I oppose the diversity offerings that are provided. Every single studio.
Now, what do you mean by that? Can you clarify
that's what I'm saying. Every single studio, movie studio, and primarily television studios, have what are called diversity slots, where they make sure, oh yeah, we're gonna offer, we're gonna find the next good black writer, or the next good Asian writer, or Latino writer, and we'll give them a slot on this show, right?
Sounds like affirmative action.
Sort of, and that sounds wonderful. The problem is, I've seen the human reaction to that. People in diversity slots, I've never seen one of them advance. They get the one little staff writer job on the show. People feel very good about themselves. I'm very liberal. I'm very open. I gave them a shot, and then I'm not going to hire them again. And I'll fill that slot with somebody else. So there'll always be that one minority slot. And then the minority's going in through the little cycle, and they'll never make it to the actual level of the game that I'm playing at, right? I told my agents when I first came to this town, I said, don't put me up for a single diversity slot. I'm coming here to rule this town. I'm not going to be the little, farm boy, the little house slave that's going to work with them. Now that's a controversial view, and many minorities would dislike my viewpoint. I would simply ask, all the minorities I know who have succeeded have not gotten into that system. Anyone gets in that system gets labeled as, hey, you're the guy that we gave a shot to because you're not good enough, but you're diversity. That is the human prejudice involved.
Is that more like a guest writer spot?
No, it's an actual job. It's a job for one season.
For one season,
and then you're done. And then nobody, because now they fulfill their liberal obligations to feel good about themselves and how racially accommodating they are. Well, next job you go to apply to another job. It's like, oh, we don't even have anything for you. We have this diversity slot. We already did a diversity slot. We're going to give that to somebody else. So that's my view as someone who is. I mean, I always question people who say they're minorities but have never struggled. I've struggled. And I've had people tell me to my face, I'm not going to give this job because you're Muslim. I mean, I had that happen when I was a journalist, to my face. So I know that kind of mindset exists. I also know the only way to defeat it is that we have to have a greater vision. The more any of you hide behind the crutches of I'm this minority, or I'm a woman, or I'm gay, or whatever, you hide behind these crutches, you will not advance. You will hold yourself back to the limit of what you think is your possibility. I came here to become Rupert Murdoch. I didn't come here to become some staff writer on ER that would be shuffled off the show, right? And so I would encourage all of you who are thinking of going to media, have that level of ambition.